124,000 chosen
Assured, we are pure alchemists, transmuting your thoughts into gold.
A risk of Yale.
Yes, and
Meet me in the laboratory.
welcome to another transmission from the Mood Alchemist. So today, I don't know, like I was thinking about some stuff and I decided and sometime I may come on here and do this, like just do like a little solo dolo podcast just because something was on my heart to speak on. Today, I want to talk about being a parent and using discernment with telling your children the truth about certain things and why it's important to tell your children the truth about just life in general. Like, if they're old enough to ask certain questions, or if certain things are happening and they're confused about it, like your duty as a parent, like yes, you are supposed to protect your children, but you also preparing them to be the adults that they're becoming. And sometimes like us like wanting to protect them, sometimes it can cause harm because it's like this overprotecting them to the point where we lying to them or we withholding things from them, and we're not equipping them with affirmation that may help them later on in life. Because we I don't know, it's like babying them, so to speak. And like I say, don't get me wrong. I feel like yes, as parents we are supposed to guide and protect. I just also feel like a lot of times parents don't use discernment in when to tell our children certain things, because we feel like telling them certain things may, speed up their growth to grow them up too fast, or sometimes may just tarnish certain things, about them. I just feel like always speaking the truth will be your best bet. And, it's, in this times where you may feel like things are, um, that your children are not ready for certain things. But I don't know, like, and I'm not knocking nobody parenting skills. That's not what this is about. I just feel like if your child old enough to ask certain questions, or if your child exposed to certain things, it's your duty as a parent to explain to your child what they're seeing or what they're experiencing, or answer the questions truthfully to what they're asking. Because if you don't be their teacher, life will be. You know what I mean? So that's what this is about today. Like, if you don't like be your children's teacher and be true to this shit, life gonna teach them. And which one? I mean, and I mean, they're gonna have experience regardless. But would you rather them to be armed with the truth, or going into their situations with delusions and shit? You know what I'm saying? Delusional and with delusions, or blind. I'd rather my children know, have a heads up when they going into experiences, so that they may be able to make better judgments than going into a situation and have no clue, and then just like lost in the sauce, and then being easily taken advantage of because they just have no clue, you know? So, saying all that to say this, right? So, because of my own current situation, it got me to thinking back about, why in the first place I adopted certain mindsets of, you know, certain things involving parenthood. So let me start by saying this video is not, again, well, let me also say that this video is not me bashing my parents or the way they parented or anything like that. This is just my truth. And I'm speaking it from a point of view of how it had an effect on me and my own relationships, and, and how it shaped how I'm also now parenting my own children, and how I was parenting my children based off of some of these things. So let me take it back. So, when I was younger, my mother, like, she never spoke negatively about my father. Like, and this, like, as an adult, I started to really admire that about her. When I was a child, I didn't understand it because, like, my father they had broke up or whatever when I was like 2. And my father, like, honestly, he had went away to college to like make a better life because he had really every intentions on like sending for my mother, sending for me, you know what I'm saying, and having us to come to move to Georgia with him. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where he was born. He was trying to go and make a better life, and also to get her away from the toxicity that was her life. Now, because my mother never told me about the toxicity in our family, because it's like, like as family, like we like to keep secrets, our family secrets and shit like that. And that's one thing about me, like I ain't with that. I ain't with none of that. I tell my children the truth, period. You know what I'm saying? Whether they really fully grasp it at the time or not, I'm not gonna lie to them. You know what I mean? I will say, like, nah, that ain't a conversation for you. I will say that about some things, but it's really, really rare. It's really rare. But if they ask me something, usually I'm gonna tell them the truth to the best of my ability. I'm not gonna try to be over vulgar about certain things, whatever, because I do have got a vulgar mouth sometimes. But I do, like, nevertheless, I'm gonna be honest with them. Period. You know what I mean? So anyway, she never really told me about the family secrets and things like that, things that happened to her. She never told me this. So her side of the family always had a lot of negative things to say about my dad and my dad's side of the family, but mostly my dad. And being that he wasn't around to defend himself, it was easy for me as a child to believe it because he wasn't there. So it's like, and I ain't gonna lie, I was low key kind of salty. Like he went on and, got with another woman. But see, but about my mother not talking to me and having a real conversation with me. And it ain't about bashing him, but it was just like, just be honest about what happened. You know what I mean? But and I was young, so maybe, she just felt like she had time to do that. Or maybe she thought that like I would grow up and I would, see for myself. I don't know. But I just feel like when I had certain feelings and thoughts about him, and I was expressing these things rather than just saying, don't speak bad about your dad, which like I say, I never understood that. I'm looking at her like, why you don't feel this way? He left us. He abandoned us. Like as a child, this how I felt. Like him going to be with another woman and marrying her and having children with her, all those things like that, as a child, that bothered me because I felt like, even though, don't get it twisted, like I was always in contact with his side of the family. Like my grandma, his mother, and granddaddy and his brothers, like they was all them, like they was always a part of my life. Like they never was not a part of my life. I never had a moment in my life that didn't involve them when I was growing up. So he was, and because of that, of course, I always knew who he was. He just wasn't active in my life. So, um, so whatever the case may be, my mother never told me like the reason why they broke up, the reason why he left. Like she never just like sat down and just told me, just real shit about what was going on back then. Like I say, I get to a certain degree, like you not want to put your child in adults' business. I get that. But when you see your child is having negative thoughts about the father, and that the father wasn't 100% wrong for how he went about things, I feel like as a parent, my mother could have talked to me. I feel like my mother didn't do that because she would have had to face some things about herself that she wasn't ready to face. So rather than face those things, she just like, nah, just don't talk bad about your dad. And I get it. Like I said, this is not me trying to bash my mother or my father, because I'm about to say some stuff about him too, you know what I'm saying, that I felt about him. But like, this is not me bashing either one of them. Like I said, it's just, I'm just laying out like how it shaped my thought process. So whatever the case may be, I felt like what could have taken place was she could have said to me, hey, your dad left because these things was going on in our family. And long story short, because I'm trying to say it without like going into like, because it's really complex and intricate. You know what I'm saying? But long story short, my grandmother, her mother, like basically hooked her up with another dude. They was like pushing another dude off of my middle brother's father. They was like pushing him off on her because they didn't like my dad. Now, the reason why my mother never had nothing bad to say about my dad, because she knew my dad heart. She knew that he wasn't no bad dude. All the stuff they were saying about him all my life, how that side of my family, I always just had a lot of negative stuff to say about him. she knew that it wasn't true. Now and this the thing, like she wouldn't correct them. Like they would say things about him, and she wouldn't correct what they would say. She would just tell me not to say bad things about him, instead of saying, like, look, that's not true. He wasn't that type of dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, or why y'all talking about, you know what I mean? Like, don't do that in front of my children. She was just kind of like, maybe try to get me out the situation or get me out of earshot of it or whatever. You know what I mean? And then sometimes they wouldn't do it in front of her. Like a lot of times they would say things about him and she wouldn't even be around. Like if they was watching me or something, like they'll be like, just making the, saying the things or like attacking my character in regards to him, like saying, yeah, you like your daddy, got that egg head like your daddy, just stuff like that, right? So, and like I say, she didn't know all of these things either, but nevertheless, they basically like created a whole issue. You know what I mean? And so my dad, not really knowing what's going on, he come back from college, thinking everything all good, and they put, and like I said, and it's not to say my mother was innocent, because she could have very well said like, no, I don't want this dude pushing my daughter in no stroller and stuff like this, and it look a certain way. That's not her father. She could have said these things. However, she didn't, because she allowed she allowed our family to like basically bully her. And my dad tried to speak up. My dad tried to, be that voice for her, tried to support her, and they didn't like him for it. Like my dad, I would say one thing about my dad, like he may have been a lot of things. He was very self-centered and arrogant in a lot of things, but he was honest. I got to give it to him. He wasn't a liar. And they knew that my dad knew like family secrets. So this is the real reason. They like, that's how my family narcissistic as hell. Like just keeping it a buck. They knew that my dad knew like family secrets. And so what they was trying to do is, in true narcissistic form, they was trying to tarnish his image. So just in case he spoke out about what was going on in their household, it would look like he just saying it in retaliation to how they feel about him. Like he ain't telling the truth. He just saying it because he mad because we don't want him around, or because we don't like him, or yada, 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 whatever, right? So they really just didn't want them together. And like I say, a big part of that was mainly because they did not like that my dad knew what was going on in their household, and they didn't want their secrets exposed. And so I ain't gonna get into every little detail on this. Maybe another story time I'll talk about, something in regards to this. But like it was like a lot of stuff. It was a lot of like, fights and police being called, guns drawn, all type of stuff in regards to me when I was growing up. Like it was like a literal like a family brawl between the two sides of my family, like the whole time when I was growing up, when I was younger. And even up until when I was older, like they still kind of low-key didn't like each other. And I would say my dad's side of the family, it wasn't even so much that they didn't like them. They was cordial. It was my mother's side that didn't really like my dad's side. And it's because they knew the truth about them. And that's really what it was. It's because they knew the truth about them and what was going on in their household. And I feel like any given moment they felt like they'll be exposed. And so they was on edge about that. Like they didn't want to be exposed. And that's why they never really, like my dad's side of the family. Cause like they like legit, they cool as hell, like supportive. They like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was weird to me too. Like how could y'all not like them? Like what's the problem? Like, when I would go visit, like it was, I didn't get it. I get it now as an adult, but I never got that when I was younger. Like why do y'all not like them? Like, what, you know what I'm saying? But as a child, with you not having all the details, you like, well, I don't know, like something may happen that I don't know about. You just kind of let that go, and you love who you love your family. Whatever the case may be, fast forward to, me having my own relationships and stuff like that. Well, hold on, let me back up. So my dad, you know what I'm saying? Like it didn't really help, right? That my dad had moved on and went with somebody else. So like for a long time, like I was mad at my dad too. So that also played a part. Like my mother transcended when I was 10. She was murdered when I was 10. And I was like, I blamed my father. I needed somebody to blame. I was a child. And even though I really wasn't around him like that, just because of the safety and comfort that I felt from my father's side of the family, even though I didn't know him like that, I just felt like he couldn't be that kind of. I never heard of him like abusing his wife. You know what I'm saying? Like I never heard of anything like that. So I just feel like he wasn't the type of dude that my mother was like attracting. And I feel like if they would have stayed together, like she would still be here. And I honestly, like, real talk, I don't want to get emotional about this part, because like my dad really, like, when, like, later on in life I realized, like, my dad really did love my mother, and he really did love me. And all that time, like, I did not know he felt like this. I did not know my dad really loved me, like, real talk. And so I thought he just, like, abandoned us, because that's what especially with my mother transcended, like, that's what my mother side of the family, like, would allow me to think, because they didn't like him, and they, it was easier for them to keep it that way. So I really, when she transcended, I really blamed him, and I feel like he blamed himself too. Like, I feel like he also, you know low key felt like if I would have never left her. He transcended last year, and before he transcended, we had a conversation, and, like, honestly, like, I never really saw him break down like this. And he had a whole fiance at the time. And anybody that, like, that know my dad, that, like after the fact, it's crazy, because, like, they really weren't telling me all this stuff when he was alive. But when he transcended, like, a lot of them just, like, head start just really coming out. Like, even, well, I take it back. Um, my stepmother, his wife, she did that. I would say she always did tell me the truth about that. Like, I would say I was probably like around like 19, and I had to go stay with him, and she had called, and me and her had a conversation, and, like, this woman apologized to me, everything, like, I am so sorry, like, for being with your father, like, I was, she, like, and this take a real woman to admit. She was like, I was jealous of your mother, everybody thought she was so beautiful, and she was like, she was beautiful. Like, my mother, I ain't gonna lie, my mama was like, how women want to look today, my mother had that long hair, pretty brown skin, like the BBLs, like, she was naturally shaped like that, like how women, but natural. So it wasn't like with the little skinny legs and stuff. Like, she had the thick thighs, bow hips, what they call it back in the day. They call them bow hips, like big round, like you could sit a glass on her ass, like, real talk. You know what I'm saying? Small waist, nice, that, like, pretty face. Like, my mama was lit. Like, in today's, like, she used to call. I remember as a child. I remember this, walking down the street with her and causing accidents. Like, I'm talking a lot of times, not just one time. I'm talking a lot of times we would be outside and she would be causing accidents. No lie, no lie. I remember this as a child. My mama was the shit, like, for real. My stepmother was like, it meant, like, I was jealous of her, this, that, and the third, and, I was friends with, I should have just remained friends with him. I shouldn't have went there with him, yada, yada, yada. It was just, like, basically, I feel like she saw what type of dude he was, and how much he cared about my mother, how much he cared about me, and she wanted that in her life. She wanted a dude like that. I mean, and I'm like, in today's terms, I get it now. You know what I'm saying? Like, at that time, even when she apologized, I accepted her apology, but I still low key was like, what does that do for me now? Like, my mother not here now. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that do for me now? But, me and her got a dope ass relationship now. Like, that's why I say my stepmother. Like, it's cool. Like, I have beyond accepted her apology. Like, I accepted it back then, but I still didn't fully, um, I would say no. Let me say this. I accepted her apology, but I wasn't fully ready to, like, forgive her for her actions on it. I just put it that way. Like, yeah, my dad, he blamed himself as well, just like I blamed him. And, yeah, as I got older and we did start having more conversations about certain things, and I did start to see, like, okay, like, he really do seem like he genuinely loved my mother. And it wasn't really until, to be keep it a buck, I'm gonna say, it wasn't until I started having my own children that I started to see, like, he was really excited about being a granddad and stuff like that. And, I still, like I said, but I still kind of had that little bit of bitterness in my heart for him. And it wasn't really, like, I didn't really fully forgive him. Maybe within, like, maybe that year or two, like the year before he transcended, I hadn't really fully forgiven him for everything. Like, before he transcended, I had really, me and him was in such a good space. Like, I can say honestly, when he transcended, I had fully forgiven him at that point. And we had just really started building our relationship, like, for real, from a place of love and overstanding. And I didn't have any bitterness in my heart about him. Um, so I'm trying not to be emotional about it, like, cause, like, for real, like, I feel like he was like, he transcended right at a point where I was really getting to know him for him, and not the stories that I was told about him, not the bitterness I had in my heart for him, feeling like he abandoning us, like all those things, those thoughts and things was gone, and he transcended before we really could build it completely. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm not gonna be emotional about this. Let me move on. But like my dad, he wasn't this dude that I thought he was all this time. And I wish my mother would have told me that. Like told me who he was really. And told me who our family was really. So that I would know. I wish she would have been honest with herself about who our family was and would have made provisions. So in the event that something happened to her, that we would have went to people who would have genuinely cared about us and took care of us, instead of something happening to us and then us being thrown into the lion's den like she was, you know. Um, but like I said again, I'm not mad at my mother. I don't blame her because she didn't have the support. She didn't have the support, and she didn't know how to stand up to that. She didn't know how to stand up to them, and so I get it. But then I also get that, her not standing up to them, it put my dad in a real bind as a man because he felt like he couldn't protect her or me, and that was one of the reasons why he wanted to move away and get us away, because he felt like that was the best, that was really the only way he really could protect us, because as long as she was right there in the same city, state, whatever with them, like he would not be able to protect us, because they was rowdy. They tried to help my mother. It was times where they came to my grandma and them, my other grandmother's house with like guns, or sitting outside their crib with guns and stuff, and like it was just a lot of stuff. And I think for him it was like he didn't want his family to be in danger or in jeopardy. So for him it was like, if she can't stand on her own on this, it kind of tied my hands because she keep running back to them. So what could I do? Like, what could I do to help this if she not going to stand on her own about this? I can't protect her if she constantly defending them. And like as an adult, I get that. I'm like I said again, I'm not mad at that because it birthed me. And now I know. And I have become that voice. Whatever she couldn't say, I can say that shit now. You know what I mean? And my dad, he, like, before he transcended, he did express some things to me. He told me some things. He pieced some things together that I didn't know or that I suspected but couldn't really prove. You know, so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all of it because that helped me to be able to heal some things that I felt about him, to be able to overstand some things about that side of my family and some of the things that I experienced and why. You know, it was generational. It was passed down through my blood. And the reason why I had to go through them things is because my mother didn't face them. And so I had to face them. And I'm not mad at her for that because I, like, going through it myself, I understand how hard it is. It was hard even for me. Like, even right now, a lot of them, like, I don't talk to. We don't have a relationship right now. And it's not even that I'm not interested in a relationship. I'm not interested in a fake relationship. If we gonna have a relationship, it's gonna be real. It's gonna be honest. I'm not holding no secrets. I'm not hiding nothing for nobody. I'm not protecting no pedophiles. None of that. So if that's the energy that they coming with, then we not gonna have a relationship. And I'm gonna speak my truth, whether y'all like it or not. And so me being in that mindset and me having the strength to be able to do that, I'm thankful. I'm thankful because that also do come from her not having the strength and witnessing all that she went through. That let me know that I gotta be that strength, so that my children don't go through that. And I feel like that was passed to me, like that torch was passed. And even though I had to go through some things that I don't wish on nobody, I'm still grateful that I'm here, and I'm grateful that I had the experience so that I can make sure that my children don't have it. I allow them to call me on my shit. Like, I'm not one of the parents, oh, children to be seen and not heard. I'm teaching them also to be respectful when they speak in their mind, but to speak your mind. Just because somebody is an adult, that don't mean that you don't have a thought or an opinion, or that you can't express yourself because somebody is an adult. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be disrespectful about things. You do need to speak your mind and be honest. And that's what I'm teaching them. I'm not, like I said, I'm not one of them mothers is like, a child's supposed to be seen and not heard. Your children don't. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to keep it a buck. Parents or adults in general that don't like children to speak up and speak truth, and like, oh, it's disrespectful if you say that and you stand a child place. Not like, yeah, you stand a child place, but you, like, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, children have a type of honesty that'll humble your ass. And a lot of adults don't be want to face that honesty. So they want children to be quiet so they don't have to face the honesty that come with them children. Children gonna hold a mirror up to your face so big and bright and shine your ass right back to you that you ain't gonna want to hear that. So the way adults combat that is, a child is to be seen and not heard. Don't you speak up. Don't you say nothing to adults. Don't you speak up to authority figures. And then these same children grow up to be adults that be afraid to speak their mind when authority figures are in their presence. These same children grow up to be abused by people that is in authoritative positions because they be afraid to speak up. They be afraid of the consequences of speaking up. No, I'm not raising my children to be on it. I don't give a fuck who it is. If they lying, they lying. Call their ass on that shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that every time somebody says that you got to always say something about every single thing. It's to say, don't allow nobody to run over you, no matter what position of power they in. Don't, like, if you working at a job, or you in a school, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or the person older than you, or the person feel like they got more experience than you. If you know so, you have a right to speak your truth. Now, they don't have to accept it. They got that right too. But they don't have a right to tell you what to think, how to feel. They don't have a right to that. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to, like, because somebody may be older than you, you just have to shrink down and not speak up. No. I'm not teaching them to do that. And they go for me, if they go for me, you goddamn right, I won't tell them they go for everybody else. No, don't be disrespectful. But yes, speak your mind, speak your truth. Always. Don't ever shrink yourself for nobody. And eventually, they're going to have to step out into this world with the knowledge that they gained from when they was children. And if the experiences that I'm giving them are those that are of shrinking their voices, or downplaying their experiences, or making them feel like that if somebody is in a certain position that they better than them, and that they shouldn't have a right to speak up or speak their truth. You know, it brought, like I say, it brought a full circle when I was thinking about my own situation growing up, and you know how I was raised, and how that was pretty much the narrative that was given to me as well. You know, when it's an adult, you don't speak up, you don't say nothing, you just let them, you know, pretty much do whatever. And that fueled, you know, me being molested multiple times, because not feeling like I had the authority to speak up, not feeling like I would be believed, not feeling like, or also feeling like the adults in my life knew. And like, if they know and I say something, what's going to happen? They're going to take these adults' side, in which I've seen them doing it. Even when I did come out about it, they did take the adult side, or the molester side, the pedophile side. I want my children to always know that, especially, like, I want them to always be honest. And in that whenever they come to me and they talk to me about things, that I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to hear them out. I'm not just going to take somebody else's word, or I'm not going to say, well, this, just because this other person is an adult that they right. I'm not going to ever do them like that. And I need them to know that, you know? So that was my transmission. You know, I know this is a little long-winded, but I had to get it out, you know. You know, this is my therapy too. This podcast is my therapy a little bit, y'all. You know, we going through therapy together. And I know that my experiences don't be in vain. And when I'm sharing this, somebody can resonate with it and maybe take something from it that they may be going through right now. I don't know how to get through. So this is me sharing my story, and in hopes that somebody takes something from it and maneuver through life easier because of what I went through the hard way. Stay tuned.
Mimi hapa, kinywa cheusi,
144,000 chosen trees.
Assured.
we are pure alchemists, transmuting your thoughts
into gold. Ariska Gale.
Yes, ask me.
Meet me in the laboratory.